Elysium fronting and speaking right now for the Court of Consciousness system. I want to try and express experience I just had and try to find and convey a method of non-destructive reality shifting. So we've left the reality shifting cult as of 2022 because it was extremely damaging for our health and because we realized that the form of it we were in was absolutely, in our case, a cult and was really dangerous. That being said, and also the idea of physically going through your mind to another place is, in our opinion, a flawed understanding of what is actually happening when people are shifting, or what they're calling shifting. And so we don't like to see it that way, and specifically at this time, we're changing our language for our own safety to say that that is not what we're doing. So we might try and steer clear of that language. But we did have an experience just now that some other people call shifting. Instead of calling it shifting, I am going to call it a immersive daydream that feels inseparable from reality. That feels just like I went to another place temporarily to be with someone there for a specific person and do something, interact with that person. But I don't want to say that I actually went to another reality because I think that is a very dangerous, slippery slope and harmful idea to be spreading. So I'm going to try and avoid that way of putting it. But I think that this could be helpful for other people who have left the shifting cult, but still want a method of controlled escapism. So what did I do and how did I do it? So I set an intention first, and I set the intention to, I am going to be with a specific video game character. In this case, it was Gale from Baldurs Gate 3. I'm going to be with that character in a specific place. The place I chose is a field of flowers with a picnic basket and a blanket for a picnic. And I'm going to console that person. And those were the intentions that we set. And so then we set a timer for 30 minutes and meditation music for 30 minutes. And we first calmed down our physical body as much as we possibly could. And what we did is we focused on each part of our body, starting either from the feet up or from above the head down, and tried to imagine like an energy or feel each part of our body calming down all the way down to our feet, or all the way up from our feet to above our head, to try and like calm our physical body down, because that is the first step for us. Then once our body was like physically calmed down, we focused on what we wanted, and we imagined ourselves with this video game character in the setting that we had chosen, and let our imagine fill in the rest, and let ourselves go to that image. And practicing this enough, it can actually become very vivid to the point that it does feel real. And it absolutely felt very real this time. And so I saw this video game character, I was talking to them in the field of flowers and consoling them. And then when the timer was up and when the music stopped, I tried to separate myself from that by saying, I think I said, end simulation, and then I'm coming out of the meditative state, coming out of the altered state of consciousness, and I'm back here. So I've been practicing sort of immersive daydreaming, because I prefer that term to maladaptive daydreaming, even though they're kind of probably the same thing. But I don't like the term maladaptive daydream because that implies that I would stop, and I'm not going to, because I'm actually trying to learn to control it, right? And so how I kind of see this is, if I'm looking at it how shifters look at it from a spiritual perspective, instead of trying to say that I'm projecting my mind or whatever into an actual other reality, what I'm actually doing is projecting my sense of self inwards into a self-contained pocket dimension that I'm inventing in my imagination temporarily. And practicing this over and over, what happens is it can get to a point where it's like you're temporarily making generated reality that feels really real, and then you're able to pull yourself back out of it and back here. And I think that this is a safer and better way of looking at it, because in the past, when I was further into the shifting cult and trying to like actually see it as I'm actually going to another reality, what just ended up happening is that is a very easy gateway to spiritual psychosis, and it did actually lead to spiritual psychosis. And as a wizard, I try to avoid things that I know are a gateway to spiritual psychosis. But that being said, unfortunately, literally any coping mechanism with humans does become self-destructive if you do it in uncontrolled ways, or if you don't really know what you're doing and you're just fucking around with your own psychology, right? And I've been there before, and I'm trying to be more controlled and careful. But yeah, so about immersive daydreaming, what you do is essentially you're daydreaming in a way that feels vivid or real, and you're tricking yourself, kind of, but it works, and it feels very real. And so one of the things that people do sometimes, there's another method that is actually slips over from daydreaming into lucid dreaming, because one of the things some people don't know is sometimes you can go from daydreaming to lucid dreaming. I have not personally been able to successfully do that. I have had both what people are calling shifting experiences, or what I prefer to call as, that's just my text message, immersive daydreaming versus like lucid dreaming. I've had both, and I think they're actually forms of the same thing, or like they're not forms of the same thing, but there's overlap there with all of these things. And I wanted to share this experience because I think this might be able to help other people where they're trying to have an altered state of consciousness or escapist experience with video game characters or with other worlds. It doesn't have to be a video game, it could be anything, but also don't want to slip into spiritual psychosis either, but also do want it to feel really real. And so like finding that balance, frankly, I feel like is really fucking hard, but we did it. So we like what other people are calling shifting, you know, like where it feels like you went to another reality. It did feel like I went to another reality and just like talked to Gale for a while and then came back here. Yeah, so part of the problem, like what happens, like why I got out of this shifting cult and then have been like suddenly re-obsessed with these ideas, is very unfortunately our DID system, myself included, Elysium, who is currently talking, have fallen in love with another fictional character. And so we want to like interact with that character, and in order to do that, we have to trick our brain into making a version of them that we can actually interact with. And so like, how does this actually work is similar. Actually, it also overlaps with tulpomancy, dissociative disorders, and some other things. But I made a temporary thought form that was both the place and the person, put myself in the thought form, and then dissolved it when I needed it to go back into reabsorbed by our energy and then be back put into present. And I know that sounds really complicated, but from our experiences, we're finding personally, and it might not work this way for everyone, that just meditating with a clear intention is actually helping us a lot with this, slowly. And you want to very, very slowly get your senses, each individual sense, to the place. The senses that are the easiest for us are, you know how internal monologues, so being a DID system, we have multiple internal monologues. And the easiest way for us to like feel like we're in another place is to put our internal monologue or like divide it into that thing temporarily. Anyways, but there's any senses you can try that are like your strongest sense with imagination. You focus on that and then you slowly add the other ones in. And yeah, so this is just like a tutorial on immersive daydreaming, which some people call maladaptive daydreaming, some people call it shifting, and it has overlaps with a bunch of other shit. So yeah, Elysium out.